Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh dear. Good morning, everybody. We are live this morning, TikTok, YouTube and Facebook. Rethink Drink, YouTube, Rethink Drink Facebook, and Rethink Drink TikTok. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Friday morning. Another week done. Just give it a couple of seconds. We're live on Rethink Drink YouTube, Rethink Drink Facebook, and Rethink Drink TikTok. So if anyone wants to join us on any of those platforms, you're more than welcome. Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Bruce Rose. I am the co-founder of Rethink Drink alongside Matt Brindley. And we work exclusively with clients who struggle with alcohol dependency, alcohol addiction. So for the next roughly about an hour, I'm just going to be talking through a little bit about what we do, how we do it. We're not a 12-step program. We're not an abstinence-based program. Nothing wrong with those programs. It's just that we work exclusively with a medication called naltrexone, and we use a one-to-one support program. We're an alcohol reduction program leading to controlled drinking or abstinence, depending on where someone wants to go with the whole process. We'll work with clients drinking 2 to 3 to 4 bottles of wine a week, right the way up to a bottle of vodka plus per day. Okay, first thing to start off with is, I believe today alcohol dependency, alcohol addiction is completely treatable. And someone's just asked for some more information. I'll just put a little link on TikTok. Down the bottom, there's a Learn More button. Please feel free to click that. If anyone wants any more information, then please click that button, fill out some details, and we'll get some information off to you as soon as possible. We're based in the UK. We work one-to-one with clients all over the UK, Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales, and Ireland as well. So, okay, guys, naltrexone, the whole process, how does it all work? Okay, number one, the first place that I always start with is when people are struggling with alcohol dependency, what are they struggling with? What is the actual addiction? The addiction is endorphin. That sounds, the link's gone. Oh, sorry, it does disappear. Give me a second. I'll bring it back up again. There we go. When someone drinks alcohol, it produces a huge amount of endorphin in the brain. I'm going to spend about 10-15 minutes this morning explaining it in a little bit more detail than we normally would, just so that people understand the full process of what we're doing. So if anyone's putting any comments, we're live on Rethink Drink YouTube, Rethink Drink Facebook as well. So again, feel free to put comments in there. But I'm going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes just explaining a little bit about the process, how the whole thing works, and then I'll try and get back to, I'm back. Hey, hi there. I'm not going to mention any names because we're live on YouTube and Facebook as well. So, but welcome back, everyone. Okay, when you drink alcohol, it produces endorphin in the brain. Endorphin is a chemical. You drink alcohol, it goes into the stomach, out the lining of the stomach, into the blood system, round the body, and up to the brain. When it reaches the brain, it forces the brain to produce a huge amount of endorphin. That endorphin goes from 95 nanograms, which is the brain's natural high, up to about 1,000 nanograms of endorphin. And that's a huge step up. Endorphin is a chemical. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. It's what gives you the buzz when you drink alcohol. Now, when you drink alcohol, it produces that endorphin. The reason that we drink alcohol is specifically for that endorphin. So we're chasing that endorphin reward. Now, when you do that process again and again and again and again, in other words, you build up what we would call the neurological pathways in the brain, which is how we learn everything. You repeat that process, drink, endorphin reward, drink, endorphin reward. The brain will eventually become addicted to that endorphin. So over a period of time, the brain becomes dependent or addicted to the process. And what happens is it's the endorphin that people are becoming addicted to. Nobody is addicted to wine. Nobody is addicted to beer, lager, vodka, all the alcohol drinks per se. You're addicted to what happens in here as a result of consuming that alcohol. So the addiction is to the endorphin. Now, here's the major kicker. The program that we run comes from Finland. It comes on the back of 35 years of research and 125 clinical trials. And what the research found was when someone stops drinking on an abstinence-based program, if someone has become dependent on the endorphin, in other words, has become addicted to alcohol, which is the modern or the old expression. When someone becomes dependent on the endorphin and then they suddenly stop drinking, what happens is you remove the alcohol. Now, for many years, it seems to be the logical, common sense solution to a problem. Alcohol is causing the issue, so therefore, the obvious solution is remove the alcohol out of the equation. However, what the research found was when you remove the alcohol out the equation, what then happens is you also remove the endorphin away from the brain. Remember, you drink alcohol, it produces a massive amount of endorphin. You stop drinking, you also remove that endorphin from the brain. That endorphin at that level is highly addictive. If the brain is dependent on it and you remove it, the brain is going to drop into something called the alcohol deprivation effect. In other words, the brain is now being deprived of the huge amount of endorphin that you've given it for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Hype girl, thank you very much. You've given it for many years. That's going to drop into alcohol deprivation. Now what happens is that creates craving. The craving is not for whiskey, vodka, beer, or anything else. The craving is for the endorphin that you get in the brain. So the reason we drink alcohol is the pursuit of the endorphin that gives us the reward. The addiction is to the endorphin, and the relapse, the reason why people stop drinking and cannot sustain their drinking, which is probably the most important part of the process, is that the brain is addicted to the endorphin. The relapse is the reason why we can't stop drinking is because of endorphin. So when you look at the whole process, stand back and have a look at it from a biological, neurological, medical point of view. The issue with alcohol addiction is nothing other than endorphin. Endorphin is the issue. And if anyone comes on our lives or follows any of our pages or YouTube, follow us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you follow us, you'll hear us going on and on and on and on. The issue is endorphin. You drink alcohol, it produces endorphin. So the endorphin is the issue. So how do we deal with that? How do we beat that? How do we overcome that? Is there a solution to deal with addiction to endorphin, which is created by consuming alcohol? The answer to that one is yes. It comes on the back of 35 years of research and 125 clinical trials. There is a medication called naltrexone. Naltrexone is an opiate inhibitor, or an opiate blocker. So what happens is when you drink alcohol, it produces endorphin in the brain. The endorphin go and hit the receptors, the opiate receptor in the brain, and that's when you get the reward. Naltrexone works as a filter. It sits on the opiate receptor, and you take the medication 1 hour before you consume alcohol. Our doctor will prescribe it. Our doctor will do a medical assessment with people, and the doctor will then prescribe naltrexone to be taken 1 hour before you drink alcohol. Now, the reason that you're doing that is that when you drink alcohol, it's producing the huge amount of endorphin. Naltrexone is sitting on the opiate receptor. It's an opiate blocker. What then happens is the endorphin comes to hit the receptor, and it works as a filter, so less and less endorphin hit the receptor, and the reward that someone is getting from the alcohol is dramatically lowered. So as a result of that, the obsessive drive to drink the volume that people drink is reduced dramatically. So that reduces it in the immediate process. There also has to be habitual change. There has to be behavioral change. There needs to be a change up of everyone's routine from a day-to-day basis. That's all part of the program. That's what we do on the program side. But from the medication side of things, it's reducing the reward that the brain is getting from drinking alcohol. Now, when that happens, if you take your medication, wait an hour and have a drink, and you get a lower endorphin reward, and you do that on a repeated basis, what happens is it rewires the neurological pathway in the brain, and in turn, that removes the craving. The rewiring of the pathway in the brain, let me explain that. I don't very often go into this one. Every time that you've drunk alcohol since you were a kid and you got a massive endorphin reward without naltrexone, the brain learns through building up of neurological pathways that every time you do this with alcohol, you get this feeling from the endorphin. Now you do that again and again and again and again and again and again and again. The brain builds up neurological pathways in the brain, and it automatically learns that when you're happy, sad, under stress, at a wedding, social anxiety, everything that's related to it, whenever you pick up a drink and go like that, I'm going to get this feeling. So then when you take it away, that's what then creates the craving and the obsessive thoughts about wanting it again. So that builds up the neurological pathway. So if someone does stop drinking on an abstinence-based program, the neurological pathways are still wired to feel, to know, to understand, to expect that huge endorphin reward. So every time that you take the medication, wait an hour and drink, take the medication, wait an hour and drink on a lower reward, the brain is learning in every given situation. Again, it relearns happy, sad, wedding, funeral, birthday, Christmas. Every time that you take the medication, wait an hour and drink on a lower reward, the brain is rewiring the pathway. So basically what it's doing is de-addicting the addicted brain, and it's taking away that obsessive drive. The brain learns, when I do this, I'm going to get this reward instead of this reward. And that takes away that obsessive thinking pattern and thought pattern. But most importantly of all, what it also means is that an individual can regain control of their drinking, and you don't have to stop drinking and have to fight that one day at a time process. So you can go through the process where you can reduce your drinking down, you can regain control of the drinking, of the volume that you're drinking, because the brain is not chasing that huge amount of endorphin. So therefore you can very, very easily and comfortably reduce the amount of alcohol that you're drinking over a period of time, and more importantly, to regulate and control the amount that you're drinking. Someone's just asked a quick question, which I'll answer here, just as I'm going through this. Can a GP or a doctor prescribe naltrexone? Currently, at the moment, it needs to be prescribed by an addiction specialist doctor. We work with an addiction specialist doctor, so if anyone is in the UK, Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales, or Ireland, and you would like to speak to us, or you'd be interested in speaking to the doctor to be prescribed for naltrexone, there's a Learn More button at the bottom here. Please click that button. If you're watching on Rethink Drink YouTube or Rethink Drink Facebook, send us a message through there, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Can the doctor prescribe? The program relies on people taking the medication and drinking, taking the medication and drinking on a reduction program. And that has to happen with whilst you consume alcohol on a reduction program to rewire the pathway in the brain. Now, we are the only organization in the world, not in the world, sorry, in the UK, who offer the full backup support program, one-to-one support to help people reduce their alcohol intake. So with that in mind, if you go to your GP, now the reason some GPs, very few GPs, but some GPs here in the UK will prescribe it, but you've got to understand that they're prescribing naltrexone for this method and allowing an individual to continue to drink. So if a doctor doesn't have a deep understanding of how the process works, then, or they're not an addiction specialist, then there's a chance that they might not prescribe it. So That's why we will use an addiction specialist doctor. Our doctor will do a full medical assessment with clients, and then the doctor will prescribe, give me 1 second. The doctor will then prescribe naltrexone alongside our one-to-one support program. And then we work with clients to reduce their alcohol intake down. And let me just get rid of someone on TikTok. That will help us, we then help individuals reduce their alcohol intake over a period of time and reducing it down to a level where they can control their intake. Excuse me. Or if someone wants to go to complete abstinence, they can do that as well. So, do we work with people in Australia? Unfortunately, at the moment, no. We are looking into the possibility in the future. Do we know anyone in Australia? Not that I can think of off the top of my head. So at the moment, no. I mean, in theory, we could, but the problem is the time differences to do that. Do we tell your GP? We're a private, we use a private doctor, so unless you require us to speak to your GP, then the answer to that one is no. Okay, let me just run through a few questions. And we're on live on Rethink Drink. We're on YouTube, Rethink Drink YouTube, and Rethink Drink Facebook. So please feel free to follow us on there. Okay, and I've also, if I haven't answered any questions, my apologies. We've just, I need to just get through the explanation, and now I'll come to, I can't answer every question that comes up, and we'll only answer questions here on TikTok, or if you've got anything on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to ask on there. We'll only answer questions that are specifically for this subject. So someone's saying, I'm on naltrexone and still have cravings at times. What helps with that? This is where the support side of the whole process comes in. There's a very fine line between craving and habit. Now, it's very important that you have someone who talks you through that whole process. Now, the cravings will reduce as time goes on with naltrexone, depending on what stage you're at, how long you've been drinking for, how much you're drinking, what's happening in your everyday life. So it may be that what you're experiencing is actually a habitual habit rather than a craving. Depends at what stage you are in the whole process. So very, very difficult to answer that one, I'm afraid, without knowing your specific situation and circumstances. Okay, and am I a GP? No, I'm not. But we do work with an addiction specialist doctor who does all our medical side of things and prescribing for us. My background was working in rehab center management. Before that, I worked in, where did I work? Homeless shelters. And I also worked myself with guys on the streets of Edinburgh for about 4 years. Okay. What's the percentages of rehab working for a function drinker? Someone's asking about a percentage of rehab working for a function drinker. I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you asking what is the success rate of rehab? It's very difficult to get an exact figure for that because it depends on how you measure it. The way that I look at it is when I worked in rehab, it was about, I would say 5 to 10% of people who came into rehab would still be sober 12 months after they left rehab. And it's the same with most abstinent-based programs. Not because, I'm going to stress this, not because there's any issue with any peer support groups or rehab centers, but it's purely because the majority of programs are still dealing with alcohol dependency as a willpower issue. They're dealing with it with, okay, I'm struggling with my alcohol dependency. I've got to stop drinking. That removes the endorphin and that creates craving. I've then got to fight that craving for the rest of my life. And then they're treating that whole process with willpower. There is a medication available today that can regulate and control that whole process, which brings you about a 78 to 80% success rate. So if that's what you're asking, I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. Anomi mom. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Just reach out to Thrive in California today. We can get something and stuff. Absolutely fantastic. They're an absolutely fantastic organization. Okay, you were in rehab. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just running through some of the questions. Oh, coffee. That's nice. A composite question mark. I'm guessing you're asking, is a composite any good? Sorry, set my shoes off. A composite is an anti-craving medication. And if someone has gone down the abstinence-based model and your doctor has prescribed a composite, then absolutely, it's an anti-craving medication. And if the doctor believes that that's the good option for you, then absolutely go down that road with it. If you are abstinent, a composite is a very good option. Some doctors will prescribe baclofen, but most of the time it's a composite. And it works on the GABA receptor and it helps with taking the edge off the craving once people are gone, if someone's going down the abstinence-based road. What medication are we speaking about? We're speaking about a medication called naltrexone. Naltrexone is an opiate inhibitor. It sits on the opiate receptor in the brain, and it regulates and controls and reduces the reward that the brain is getting from drinking alcohol when it produces endorphin. Nobody is addicted to alcohol. You're addicted, or anyone is dependent on the endorphin that is produced from drinking the alcohol. Is it possible to still drink and have a better relationship with alcohol? Absolutely, 100%. That's what the whole process does. Our process is an alcohol reduction program leading to controlled drinking or abstinence, depending on what someone does. Now, 90% of our clients, we've worked with over 1,000 clients in the last 6 years. The whole issue, sorry, I was going to say the majority of our clients, I would say about 90% of our clients will still drink today in a controlled manner. Now, that's everyone from someone who is drinking 4 or 5 bottles of wine a week up to bottles of vodka plus per day. I'm speaking to someone at the moment who is drinking a bottle of whiskey a day and still drinks a can of beer every day on average. But it's controlled. It's their choice. There's no white knuckling it. There's no struggle. There's no battle. So no matter what level of dependency someone is starting at, you can reduce the alcohol intake down by rewiring the neurological pathway in the brain through taking naltrexone and lowering the reward. Take the medication, wait an hour, and then drink. Only if you are already consuming alcohol, it rewires the pathway in the brain, and it allows an individual to reduce down to controlled drinking. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Okay. No. Is it possible to have a yes? I just don't know when to stop when I'm out. A lot of people, well, most people who struggle with alcohol dependency, the issue is the on-off button doesn't work. When you have one drink, the brain gets a huge amount of endorphin, and it's never satisfied with that, so it wants another drink, gets more endorphin, has another drink, gets more endorphin, and it's never satisfied, so it wants one more, one more, one more, one more. And that's where the expression "one drink is too many and 20 is not enough." That explanation is absolutely true, but what they don't explain is the biological, neurological process in the back of that. When the brain becomes addicted to the endorphin that you get from drinking alcohol, then what happens is when you stop drinking, it creates craving for that endorphin. When you then feed the brain the endorphin from alcohol that it's been craving for a day, a week, a month, or whatever, the brain gets that huge reward. It can't stop. It just goes on one more, one more, one more, one more. So that's why when people start drinking, the brain is dependent or has become addicted to endorphin. So the person who's put the comment on TikTok, I just don't know when to stop when I'm out. The reason for that is because the brain is chasing that endorphin reward. It's pursuing that endorphin reward, and it becomes addicted and dependent on it. So when you have that one, you just can't stop at 2, you can't stop at 3, you can't stop at 4. So that's where naltrexone comes in, and that's where the support process comes into play, where we will help people alongside naltrexone, alongside our doctor. We will help you reduce your alcohol intake over a period of time to regulate and control. It's possible today, thanks to science and medicine, to regulate and control your drinking, no matter what stage someone is at with their alcohol intake. How do you taper down? You taper down first and foremost by using naltrexone. When you use naltrexone, we would then work with drink diaries with clients, and then through dealing one-to-one with a client, we'll have a very close look at the daily pattern of drinking. We'll have a look at what time someone starts drinking, how much they're drinking, what they're drinking, and then we will structure a program specifically for an individual to reduce that whole process. Now, there's many things that you can do to do that. One of them is the habitual side of it. So let's very simple example. There are many different examples, but if someone's coming home from work and having a drink at 5 o'clock, then we'd say to them, hey, listen, take your medication at 5 o'clock and have your first drink at 6 o'clock. Bear in mind, it's rewiring the pathway, it's removing the craving. So as you go on and on and on and on in the program, the habitual change process, which then results in the reduction of the alcohol, becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. And then that's how you regain control of it. Now, that's only one very small example. There are many different things that we look at to regulate and control that whole process. But that's why the support program is so important. If anyone would like some further information, a quick plug for us. I'm going to there's a learn more button at the bottom that will be here for 30 seconds. If you click that, fill out your details, we'll send information on to you, or we're happy to set up a phone call with anyone if you fancy. Okay. Thank you. I understand that. You're more than welcome. Okay, the medication, someone was just asking, what's the medication? The medication is naltrexone, Naltrexone, naltrexone. How often do you need to be drinking with naltrexone? You don't force drink. You don't have to force drink yourself. Now, when we're working with a client, we're not pushing someone to continually drink. We're not pushing someone to say, listen, you have to drink every day, you have to drink every day. When you're taking naltrexone, you're only drinking on the days that you feel like having a drink. So if someone's a daily drinker, we would say carry on drinking every day, take your medication 1 hour before you consume alcohol. We'll then have a look at your drink diary. We'll then look at your everyday routine. Then we'll start to put things in place to help you reduce. If someone's drinking 3-4 times a week, we'll say, listen, you don't drink every day. Just continue your normal routine of drinking 3-4 times a week, and we will work in that area take your medication only on the days that you consume alcohol. So you take your medication 1 hour before you drink. It lowers the endorphin reward. Therefore, we can then start to work on the habits. So you just carry on drinking as normal. It's not a case of deliberately going out there and drinking. One thing I have to say specifically is that this program is only for people who are currently drinking. It's not for people who are not drinking. If you've gone down the abstinent-based road, we support that 100%. Keep going with that if you're on the abstinent-based road. We're here today to talk to people who are specifically currently drinking, and we work an alcohol reduction program. So, the struggle is real, absolutely. So, okay, guys, where are we? 8:04. I've got about 20 minutes. So just to recap, endorphin is the issue. Any single question that you come across that is related to alcohol or alcohol dependency, the answer in the majority of cases is the issue is endorphin. The solution is naltrexone and a one-to-one support program. So to help you reduce your alcohol intake. Endorphin is the issue. Endorphin, 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 endorphin. Endorphin is a chemical in the brain. We have to change the conversation. We have to change the discussions. We have to change the whole process of the recovery world to understand that when you drink alcohol, we need to start pushing people towards the biology of drinking alcohol. It's absolutely fascinating to me that when people are looking at alcohol recovery, the biology and the science and what is happening in here is never discussed. It is from an emotional, psychological point of view. Every single solution for alcohol dependency today and for the last 100, 200, 300 years has always been emotional, psychological talk therapy. That's how we deal with a medical situation in regards to alcohol dependency. So what we're trying to say here is, hang on a minute. Yes, talk therapy. Yes, some people will help and will benefit from counseling, from additional therapy. Absolutely. But talk therapy, excuse me, talk therapy, meetings, rehabs, etc., if you just take away what's going on in the brain, the reward, it's not going to deal with the whole neurological process. You have to take the medication, take naltrexone, you have to rewire the neurological pathway in the brain. So just by talking things through is never going to deal with a medical issue. It's never going to deal with it. When I worked in rehab, we had group work, we had one-to-one key worker support, we had peer support groups at night, AA, CA, every night of the week. We had exercise, we had work programs. So we had all of that whole process was put into place, and 90% of people, when they came out the other end of rehab, they relapsed within the first 12 months, most of them within the space of the first month or two. So that shows me now, looking at it now, alcohol dependency is a medical condition. It's a neurological condition whereby the brain is addicted to a chemical called endorphin. That endorphin, if you go onto Google Scholar, don't go to Google, go to Google Scholar and research endorphin and alcohol, or the biology of what happens when you drink alcohol in the body, but more importantly, in the brain. So when you drink alcohol, it's producing a massive amount of endorphin in the brain. So if there's research in the future, I guarantee Manjano will be the way forward. I was a big drinker. I don't anymore. Manjano is proving to be or having some success with some people. Now, obviously, we work with hundreds of clients. Manjano actually works on what we call the GLP-1 receptor. The GLP-1 receptor is responsible for glucose. So the reason that Manjano works well is that it works as a blocker as well. It works in the same process, but it sits on the GLP-1 receptor. And what happens is it's reducing the glucose or sugar reward that someone's getting when they're eating food. So therefore, they don't have that obsessive drive to eat as much as they want to eat. So it works on exactly the same principle. Now, Munjano will have an impact with some people in regards to alcohol, but only in regards to the sugar side of things. So because it's a GLP-1 receptor, which is working on glucose, it doesn't deal with the opiate receptor, which is giving you the huge reward. Now, what we're seeing through Munjano and everything else is that it's working quite well for people who are lower to middle end drinkers. The sugar dependency is helping people just get over that line. Now, people who are heavier drinkers, we're not noticing a huge success rate with it. Now, yes, it does work, but the main issue with alcohol dependency for the majority, now it's quite a complex issue with every individual person, but the main issue for most people is the opiate receptor. So yes, Munjano, I drank on my days off, not dependent. All right, okay. So the reason that fantastic, that's really interesting to hear, because what we are learning is that Munjano is working well for people who are, it's the sugar. Munjano is working off the GLP-1 receptor, which is the sugar. So it could be that just the sugar, reduction of the sugar is taking away, people might drink because they like the flavor of sweet drinks or the sugar that's in a drink. So by regulating and controlling the sugar, it will do the same thing as naltrexone does. So that's very interesting. Thank you for that. Now, again, I mean, as things move forward, Munjano, all the medications for food, they're working on exactly the same principle, but they're just working on different receptors. There is no research for long-term use of Munjano with alcohol, etc., etc. There is a lot of research going on in the moment in the States in regards to medications that can help with alcohol moving forward. But whichever medication, I was going to say, hopefully it will, medicine and research will move forward even from where we are today with naltrexone. However, the other side of it, whatever the medications are being used, they are sitting on the receptors and lowering the reward that you get from something, and therefore it's then helping on the behavioral side. So there will always be a need for the support side of it. My main issue with Munjano moving forward is that there is no support program in most cases. So people aren't having to go through a one-to-one support program. Okay, when you're taking this, you need to be doing exercise, you need to be eating a healthier food, you need to be eating nutrition. Your nutrition needs to change, your diet needs to change. Otherwise, when people stop taking Munjano, then everything just goes back to normal. Or if they go back onto a controlled level with diabetes, maybe, then it needs to have exactly the same support program long term. Anyway, we've gone off subject a little bit there. Someone's asking the question, there's meds for addiction. Absolutely. And the medication naltrexone plus a one-to-one support program shows a 78 to 80% success rate. 78 to 80% success rate. The results that we are seeing, we've worked with this model now. It comes from Finland. It's not, we haven't invented this or started this last week and thought, let's go onto YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and just talk about it to people. It's been around for about 20 years. The medication comes on the back of 35 years of research and 125 clinical trials. We are watching, Matt Brindley and myself, who are the co-founders of Rethink Drink, we are watching client after client after client after client beat or regulate and control their alcohol dependency. We've worked with guys drinking bottles of vodka, bottles of whiskey. I'm currently working with one individual drinking a bottle of whiskey a day. He's down to drinking 1 can of beer every day. No white knuckling it, no craving. Now, anyone who's been in that field or in that area, you'll then realize that to be drinking a bottle of vodka, bottle of whiskey, there is only one solution currently without treating it as a medical condition, and that's stop drinking and never drink again. Fight the craving and make that decision. I will never drink again the rest of my life. Now, that works for some people. Now, it's almost impossible to get someone at that level of drinking to regulate and control their drinking, to have one can of beer every day. They might be able to do it for a day or 2 days or 3 days, but to do it long term is next to impossible. This client that I'm working with for the last 4 or 5 months, he is having one can of beer every single day. A little while ago, he had 2 cans of beer on one day, and next day went straight back to 1 can. Now, this guy was a seasoned drinker. He'd been drinking at that level for 20 to 30 years, long time. And today he can regulate and control the whole process. He chooses when he drinks and how much he drinks, completely in control. Compared to where he was even 12 months ago, it's night and day. Night and day. Okay, guys, if you're watching on TikTok, I'm just going to put a Learn More button. There's a blue Learn More button at the bottom. Please feel free to click that button if you want to get some more information about how the process works. If you're in the UK, this button is only for people who are in the UK. We can't send information abroad, but we can send information out to people based in the UK. So if you want to learn more, or if you want to have a conversation or a discussion with us, if you want to have a Zoom call or a phone call, we'd be more than happy to do that. Okay, any advice to begin even speaking to my husband? He gets so defensive and I'm lost. Okay, the dealing with a partner or someone who is a family member who is struggling with alcohol. The majority of people who are struggling with alcohol know that they're struggling with alcohol, first and foremost. Secondly, they want a solution. Secondly, and then thirdly, the issue that most people will become defensive is because they know that the only solution is stop drinking and never drink again. And they may have tried that on a few occasions. They've tried stopping and it hasn't worked. They've tried stopping, hasn't worked. And they've gone through that process a little, or 2 or 3 more times. Every time someone tries to stop drinking, or they know that the only solution is stop drinking and never drink again, the hope gets less and less and less and less. And it eventually gets to a stage where people they feel more comfortable drinking than they do going through the whole process of potential detox, then dealing with the craving, then dealing with the relapse, and then dealing with the guilt and the shame. So they know that they've got an issue. They know that they're struggling with it. They just don't have a solution. They're sitting there like, listen, I want to stop, but I can't stop. I can't deal with the craving. I can't deal with the withdrawal. I can't deal with life without alcohol. If I do stop, I may have tried to stop 5, 6 times before, and every time I've relapsed, I can't deal with that guilt and the shame and what's wrong with me and why can't I do this? Just the person who said their husband's struggling. If you're in the UK, or if anyone has family members in the UK, there's a Learn More button at the bottom of TikTok. Click that, fill out some information, say, please send me some information that I can give to my partner, family member, or loved one. And we'd be more than happy to do that. So just very briefly, if anyone is in the US, there's an organization that does exactly the same as what we do in America, called Thrive Alcohol Recovery. Thrive Alcohol Recovery. So get in touch with them if you're in the States. Oh, that's nice. Nice cup of coffee. Okay, guys, I've got to be off in about 10 minutes. So, you described the family member feeling perfectly. So what can she do to help? So the best solution is, if someone is in the UK, get in touch with us. Again, I'll put the link at the bottom. There's a Learn More button at the bottom. Click that link. Send us, there's a description on one of it. Please send information for family member. And we will send out a mini course, which is 10 videos long. They're 2 to 3 minutes long each. And it explains this whole process that I'm explaining to you just now. It's myself that does it. I do 10 videos, 2 minutes long each. I explain what causes alcohol addiction from a neurological point of view and how this process works, and the fact that it has an 80% success rate, and someone actually doesn't have to stop drinking for that process to work. So the suggestion would be to give them, or let them have a look at those videos, and then make their mind up, because the individual is in a position where they just don't know what to do. Please, 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 people who are struggling in that scenario, they know they're struggling. They know they've got an issue. They just don't know how to get out of it. It's a scary place to be. So let them have a look at the videos, let them have a look at it, and then get back in touch with us. Again, I'll put the link up at the bottom. The Learn More button. Just get in touch with us and we'll either send more information, or we can set up a phone call or a discussion with anybody. What about controlled drinking? Yeah, that's what we do. It's an alcohol reduction program leading to controlled drinking or abstinence. So people can regulate and control their drinking. Bless you. I really need you in this moment. Hey, no worries at all. If you are in the US, I'm guessing that you might be in the US, but Thrive Alcohol Recovery in the US. If you're in the US or Canada, Thrive Alcohol Recovery are the organization that you need to get in touch with. Someone saying that we do great work. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. He's probably in denial and thinks he hasn't got a problem. I would respectfully disagree with that one. Every single person that is struggling with alcohol, I've worked in this field for 6-7 years. I worked in rehab center management for a number of years. I worked in homeless shelters. And then before that, I worked for 4 years. The last 10, 15 years, I don't know how long it is. I'll need to work it out. Between 10 and 15 years of my life, I've worked with people who are struggling with alcohol dependency and drug issues as well. And I've had a drug issue myself. People who are struggling with alcohol intake on a daily basis, they know that they know that they know that they have an issue. That it's not that they're in denial, and we have to come away from this thinking of putting people down and saying, well, they're in denial and they think they haven't got a problem. They know they've got a problem. Please trust me. They know that they're struggling. They just don't know what the solution is. They've tried abstinence, they've tried stopping, they've relapsed, they've tried stopping, they've relapsed. The hope gets less and less and less. They know they've got a problem. So we've got to stop putting this additional pressure on people to say, well, you've got to hit rock bottom before you go and seek any help and all this kind of stuff. Please, guys, please, please, please. Alcohol dependency is a medical condition. We need to start treating it with compassion. We have to start treating it as a medical condition with medication, a reduction program with compassion. We've got to stop telling people it's all their fault. We've got to stop telling people you've got to hit rock bottom before you do anything. We've got to stop being hard on people. You've got to fight this. You've got to battle this. You've got to do this one day at a time, and you've got to feel the pain to get the gain and all this sort of stuff. And come on, it's a medical condition. We would not do that with someone with epilepsy. We wouldn't do that with someone with asthma. We wouldn't do someone like that with the diabetes, blood pressure, etc., etc. Alcohol dependency is a neurological addiction to a chemical called endorphin. It's not an emotional, psychological, character, personality shortfall. Please, guys, it's not. It's a medical condition. We are watching client after client after client after client after client beat their addiction simply by using naltrexone and us helping them through a reduction program for a 3, 6, or 12-month period. Then people can go off and they can live a normal life, still drinking. When they go to a wedding, go to a party, they take the medication, they go to a wedding, they can still drink. They don't have the pressure of the craving, of the fear, They don't live the rest of their life in fear of, if I have one drink, I could relapse and it could ruin my life. That's putting so much pressure on people. It's scary. When people do relapse, in a lot of cases when they do, the guilt and the shame that is coming on people is crazy. Just imagine if I've got epilepsy, if I go to the doctor and say to the doctor, I've got epilepsy, doctor, I'm struggling with my seizures at the moment. And the doctor says, well, listen, Bruce, you just have to gut it out. You just have to wait till you hit rock bottom before you're really going to start dealing with your epilepsy. Just go to your local epilepsy support group. Go and sit and talk about it. Get some counseling, get some therapy, get some everything else. What's going on here from a neurological point of view from epilepsy, I'm still going to have a seizure. It doesn't matter how many times I talk about it, discuss it, go into meetings, go to therapy, go to counseling, go to psychologists, psychiatrists. I'm still going to have a seizure. There's nothing going to stop that seizure. That it's exactly the same with alcohol dependency. When the brain becomes addicted to endorphin, there is nothing that you can, if someone's at the higher level, if you're in that situation or you know someone who is struggling at a higher level of endorphin addiction, nothing in this world will talk someone out of chasing a drink to get that endorphin reward. That's why people lose their families. That's why people lose their jobs, their health, etc., 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 because they are the drive for that endorphin is so high. We have to start treating it as a medical condition. We have to understand the old-fashioned way of dealing with willpower. It's a character shortfall. It's a personality shortfall. It's a higher power issue. Please, guys, it's a medical condition. It's a medical condition. And when we treat it as such, you get an 80% success rate. I've worked in rehab where we treated it as a willpower issue with a 12-step program, 90% relapse rate. I'm working with this process where we're treating it as a medical condition. We have an 80 to 90% success rate. I don't know how else to say it. We're not knocking other programs. We're just saying that today, when you treat it as a medical condition, therefore, it solves the whole issue. Treat it with naltrexone. Now, it needs to come with a support program. It needs to come with the backup and the support of people who are who know what they're doing. There's a very specific cycle that people go through as they reduce. So if you're on TikTok and you want some information, please click the Learn More button at the bottom. If you're in the UK, we'd be more than happy to either send you some information or get in touch with you. So, okay, guys, I'm sorry, I need to go. It's 25 past. I've got a meeting in about 4 or 5 minutes. So, okay, guys, absolutely fantastic speaking to you. We've been live this morning on YouTube, Rethink Drink YouTube, and Rethink Drink Facebook. So if you go to Facebook, type in Rethink Drink, you'll find us on there. Please follow us on there. If you go to YouTube, you'll see a bunch of videos on YouTube. Rethink Drink, just type in Rethink Drink, or follow us on this page on TikTok. If anyone wants any more information. So thank you very much. If anyone is wondering, naltrexone does work. Thank you very much for the person that left that comment. Really appreciate that. So not for us, but just for everyone in general. Alcohol dependency today is completely treatable, completely treatable. I'm just going to finish the YouTube and Facebook streams.